What is the relationship of Jesus to God? What is the relationship of the one called the Son of God with the one called the Father? Does the Bible actually teach, as many claim, that Jesus, the Father, and the Holy Spirit are all equally one God? And what does this question have to do with us today? In John 14:28, Jesus said to his disciples, "If you loved me, you would have rejoiced because I said, 'I am going to my Father, for the Father is greater than I.'" Many have pointed to this verse as evidence that Jesus, contrary to tradition, did not claim to be God. But in the same book in which Jesus is expressly called God, John chapter 1 verse 1 and chapter 20 verse 28, where he makes himself equal with the Father, John 5:18, and where he calls himself I Am, a title that mirrors God's name as revealed in Exodus 3, John 8:58. Jesus cannot now be saying that he is less than God. However, he is declaring the greater sovereignty of the Father. Does this make Jesus less than divine? How can one be sent by God the Father, submit to the Father's authority, and call the Father's sovereignty greater while still equally sharing the divine nature and position of God? The question is only difficult when we fail to consider the full revelation of God's nature. If God is only the thundering lawgiver, if God is only unlimited power, if he is only the sovereign creator, then this verse and those like it do create a problem. But let us remember such biblical episodes as God's patience with Abraham's protests, Genesis 18, God's acquiescing to Moses' intercession for Israel against God's expressed plan to destroy them, Exodus 32, and God answering the humble prayers of Hannah, 1 Samuel 1. We learn from these stories and many like them that also within God's nature exists humility and love. God converses with humans and even seems to make plans that are influenced by his conversations with them. There is certainly much more to God than unrelenting power and authority. If we see God's demonstration of this level of humility, deference, and love, then the Son's loving submission to the Father is no less an exhibition of divine attributes than the Father's exercising authority. Jesus is not being less godlike when he bows to the Father's authority, since humility and love are aspects of God's nature. In fact, the nature of God was revealed quite profoundly on the cross, where God chose to bring about his sovereign victory through the ultimate in loving submission. And here we see the beauty of the compound unity of God. Because Father, Son, and Spirit exist eternally as God, the possibility of expressing love, deference, and humility to an other exists eternally within God. And because God's love is an eternal part of his nature, we can rest assured that it won't change. Because love is an eternal aspect of who he is, we need not fear that God might arbitrarily decide to withdraw his love. Those who believe that the singular God is a divine, loving communion can trust in God's eternal love that existed before all creation. This understanding also has much to say about human morality and responsibility. Love and godliness can be expressed through both authority and submission to authority. To exhibit the qualities of a submitted son, daughter, student, or employee is no less godly than to be the one in charge. If there is no submission in God, there is no godliness in us being submitted. It is only an unfortunate occurrence to be fought against. But since there is submission in God, we can rest in that position and treasure an opportunity to show godliness in it. Has God placed you under the leadership of others? I'm not calling for people to remain in unsafe or abusive situations, but one can embrace a position of submission with godly humility, even under imperfect authority. Has God called you to a leadership role, then exercise that authority with self-sacrificial love, for there is no godliness in loveless authority. In whatever situation we find ourselves, may God be glorified through our exhibition of His character, for within God is the perfect harmony of both fatherhood, authority, and power, and equally sonship, submission, and love. We see in the relationship of Jesus and the Father an example of both loving authority and humble submission. As we study the interaction of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit throughout the Bible, we receive a fuller revelation of the one true God's nature, revealing both His sovereignty and love. As it is written in Psalm 62, God has spoken once, twice I have heard this, that power belongs to God. Also to you, Lord, belongs loving kindness.